Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn and I am very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. It's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to our online worship. If you're watching live, you'll see buttons changing throughout the service that will guide you to our website for the online worship portal, joys and concerns, and our offering. Our collaborative pianist this morning is Holling Smith-Bourne, and you'll be hearing his playing in just a moment. I'd like to invite you to prepare yourself for singing and join me in our opening song, Once to Every Soul and Nation, number 119 in your gray hymnal, Once to Every Soul and Nation. Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide. In the strife of truth with falsehood, for the good or evil side, then to stand with truth is noble. When we share its wretched crust, ere that cause bring fame and profit, and 'tis prosperous to be just. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet 'tis true the Lord is strong. Though its portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, then it is the brave one chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude make virtue of the faith they have denied. Good morning. I'd like to invite you now to connect with your heart space and connect in your imagination with all of those who are joining us for this online worship. We love it when you say hello in the chat and let us know that you're here worshiping with us this morning. Good morning.
Our chalice lighting this morning. As we kindle this chalice, calls us to community, let there be light. As the flame of this chalice reminds us of our values, let there be light. As the glow of this chalice encourages hope, let there be light.
Our reading this morning will be adapted from one called Living with Pride by Lori Gorgas-Alvon. We welcome those whose lives have been lived in closets of shame. We welcome those who furtively visited the bars where nobody knew your name. We welcome you as we remember the Stonewall riot and the fierce trans women who fought, as we remember those who suffered from the plague, which still takes far too many, too young, too soon. So many gone, so many never lived to see out gay kids singing on TV, out gay people serving in the military, marriage equality, families formed by intention. We welcome all of you. And for our siblings of the rainbow, surviving, living life out in the open with pride, welcome, and let us worship together.
Our time for all ages this morning is one of our most dearly held rituals.
For centuries, parents have brought their children to holy places to present them to community, to bless and dedicate them in faith, ever mindful of the hope and promise of new life in them. Through our commitment to this child here today, to his religious, spiritual, and emotional growth, we join his parents in their concern and compassion for this young life, adding our own commitment, knowing that all of us will share the responsibility for this child. By this dedication, we acknowledge the full place of this child among us. We give thanks for who he is and who he will become. We celebrate the holiness of his faith in life. We express our sincere commitment to love and nurture this child and Carolyn, Reed, and Turner love their child today to be demonstrated.
Ed and Carolyn, in presenting your child at this service, you invite all of us to share the joy and responsibility that is yours as his caregivers. Is this your wish? Yes. For our ritual of dedication, we use water and a rose. Water touches every shore and nourishes all people. This water symbolizes the gathered community's annual water communion, and so our whole community is here in spirit. This rose symbolizes our hope that this child will unfold and blossom instead of bud, so it's got to continue unfolding and blossoming. And you notice we took the thorns off because we don't give you the ones with the thorns until you graduate from high school. And we think you're ready to handle the thorns of life. Okay? So by what name is this child known? David Nathaniel Turnley. Okay. David Nathaniel Turnley, are you ready for your parents and your congregation to commit to your religious, spiritual, and emotional growth?
Yes.
David, may your thoughts be wise. May your lips speak true. May your heart know love. And may the work of your hands be blessed all the days of your life. And I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to hold it above that thing. It's untouched by human hands. David has brought blessings to you, his parents. I will now ask you to dedicate yourselves. Carolyn and Ed, will you strive to nurture David in love and wisdom until he blooms into full flower and can care for himself? Yes. Thank you very much. Now David has brought blessings to all of us, this congregation, where he attends church school and children's choir. We will now ask the congregation to rededicate yourself to him and to all of our children.
This ritual, like so many of our rituals, is a covenant, and that involves all of us. So in this responsive reading, we are asking you, the congregation, to covenant with the family. I will start the reading, and your response is in blue. It is our faith that each child born is one more Redeemer.
By the service of dedication, we commit ourselves to the nurture of this child.
Are you ready to dedicate yourselves to David Turnley?
We are prepared. We dedicate our minds and hearts to this child and to his parents.
Will you strive to love and cherish them in times of struggle as well as gladness?
We will love and cherish them always.
We acknowledge the divine spark within each child.
May we be worthy guardians of this young life. May we build a community in which he will grow old, surrounded by beauty, embraced by love, and cradled in the arms of peace.
Blessed be, and amen.
Hey, Marguerite, could you put your mic on, please?
Good morning. I'm Marguerite Mills, your Director of Religious Education, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to worship. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We are a welcoming congregation, and we deepen our relationships as we serve our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. All are welcome to attend our services, and people become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please contact Denise Gouch, your Assistant Minister for Congregational Engagement. Her email address can be found in the staff directory on our website under Contact Us. Following the service, we hope you will enjoy at least one of the online opportunities for fellowship listed in our online worship portal. You may know that we share every Sunday's collection with an organization whose work outside our walls aligns with our values. For the month of June, our Share the Plate partner is Nashville Launchpad, an organization working with youth and young adults experiencing homelessness. You can read more about their work inside the worship portal at firstuunash.org. For now, while we're meeting entirely online, there are no friendly ushers to pass you the offering bowls. But our fabulous finance and communication folks have made sure that anyone, anytime, can access our online donation form at firstuunash.org. If you would like to mail a check to the church, please write in the memo line how you'd like your donation to be used. If you want your gift to be credited to your pledge, please write pledge. If you write Sunday offering, it will be donated to our Share the Plate partner. In this season of virtual offering bowls, we are especially grateful for the steady generosity which allows us, both within and beyond the congregation, to continue creating community, nurturing spiritual growth, and acting on our values. Now, Roddy Biggs, one of this morning's worship associates, will tell you about our Share the Plate partner for this month.
So one of the opportunities that I have as a co-chair of the Social Justice Committee, Post U Nashville, is helping the congregation select our Share the Plate partners. Being Pride Month, the Social Justice Committee voted to find a LGBTQ organization within the city of Nashville, and we settled on Launchpad. Launchpad is a fully volunteer-funded, volunteer-supported organization that houses LGBTQ youth in shelters 5 nights a week from the age of 18 to 24. They provide food, meals, resources, support, clothing, and really any other resources or needs that LGBTQ youth might have. This is so important because LGBTQ youth are the most homeless population when it comes to youth serving. The National Homeless Coalition says that 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ. And this is significant because so many shelters will not take them because of their queer identities. So to have something like Nashville Launchpad in our back door is incredible. And I encourage you to support them a little bit more than you might be able to. So if you think you can give $20, think about giving that 25 and skip that Starbucks coffee tomorrow morning. Thank you, and I hope you will continue to give to our Show the Plate partners. The work we are doing and the money that we are putting in their pockets is life-changing for so many people.
At this time, I'm going to invite you to share our joys, our concerns, and our sorrows. You'll see that there's a button if you're worshiping live with us to press. If you are not, there is a button at firstuunash.org under worship. If you fill this out and give permission for us to read it, I will do so after the following musical interlude. If you don't want us to share it, it will be shared with the pastoral care team, as all of our joys, concerns are. So I invite you to take a deep breath. Bring yourself more fully present to the sacred space that you and those you're with are making around you, to the people that you are gathered with, both physically and in this virtual community. And become more fully present to yourself. As you become more fully present to yourself, you become more aware of those moments from the last days or hours that you bring here with you, especially those moments that strike your spirit at its core. If any of you have such a joy or concern, this is the time to share it. Please spend a few moments listening and in reflection. May it be so. I have a concern from Maria Cottingham. She says, I am angry in the wake of even more police violence, the ongoing murder of Black lives. And on our chat, Anne says, I am missing today my dear loving father, Arthur D. Morse, who married to my mother 75 years ago this week and died 49 years ago. And here is both a joy and a concern from Evelyn. I'm saving up for 2 skirts in Royal High. I don't have enough diamonds yet. Also, I miss everyone. And she updates this with a second joy and concern. Yesterday, Evelyn got diamonds in Minecraft. I'm going to miss you, Gail. I'm going to miss you too, Evelyn. And this is from Carleen Dowell, and it is a joy. So glad Tulsa did not experience violence last night. And this is a joy from Jonah Eller Isaacs. Celebrating Reverend Marlon Lavenhar from All Souls Tulsa, all our UU siblings in the area, and all allies from local communities of color who've made it known that hate and bigotry have no place in their city. Thank you, Jonah. And this is a joy from Susie Vickers. Thank you for being so trans affirming and LGBTQ affirming in general. It makes me so happy and makes my heart so warm because I have several trans friends that I love dearly. Thank you for sharing that love, Susie. And this is a joy from Roddy. Roddy says, to all the LGBT youth who do not know that they are loved, my heart breaks. May they know love. We as UUs make sure of this. And this is a joy from Valerie Martin. Chris and I have a joy that my dad is visiting us from Texas, and we'll get to go spend time with Chris's dad later today too. Last night, we enjoyed watching some of the live stream of Stonehenge's summer solstice sunrise. Valerie, Chris, with you, we enjoy and share these celebrations of the summer solstice and Father's Day. Thank you. And this is a concern from Elizabeth Geshier. She says, my heart is heavy thinking about all of those who are very, very tired of struggling for their rights and freedoms. I pray that we may all continuously find ways to nourish our spirits so that when we get tired of participating in such struggles for ourselves and others, we find the energy we need to keep showing up. Amen on that, dear Elizabeth. Jean Klein has a joy to share. Joy for Tulsa and my family and friends. All are safe. I invite you to hold all these joys, concerns, and sorrows in the spirit of prayer. And I will be sharing a prayer, a poem That was written by Mark Hicks, and he adapted it from an anonymous writing by a gay high school student. May we all join our hearts in a spirit of love and life. My father asked if I am gay, and I asked, does it matter? He said, no, not really. I said, yes. And he said, get out of my life. I guess it mattered. My friend asked why I talk about race so much. I asked, does it matter? He said, no, not really. So I told him yes. And he said, you need to get that chip off your shoulder. I guess it mattered. My neighbor asked me why I put that ramp up to my front door. And I said, does it matter? And he said, no, not really. So I told him it's because it made my life easier. And he said, is there a way to make it less obvious? I guess it mattered. My God asked me, do you love yourself? And I said, does it matter? And she said, yes. And I said, how can I love myself? I am gay, Latino, disabled. And she said, that is the way I made you. Nothing will ever matter again. May we hold all in love so that they know that we, you, matter. Blessed be, and amen.
So happy Pride Month. I know that for many of us, this doesn't seem like the Pride we're used to, but it's the original roots of Pride. I've been doing a lot of reflecting and thinking these past few days, and I've honestly come to no higher conclusion.
It looks like Roddy has been having trouble with his internet today. Let's see if he comes back in the room. Why don't we sing our song number 157, Step by Step, The Longest March? And he can join us and share his reflections after we've finished singing. The song is Step by Step, The Longest March. Can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Won't you join me? Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn the mill, singly none, singly none.
Roddy Biggs and our other worship associate, Rachel Rogers, taught me some things about Stonewall I never knew. And they weren't even born until after it. I was traveling across the country during Stonewall, and I obviously wasn't even reading the newspaper in 1969, 51 years ago. What they pointed out to me was that Stonewall happened because a group of trans Black and brown women got fed up and they fought back. Some people call it the shot glass heard around the world, for indeed it started a revolution that has led to things 50 years later, like the Supreme Court decision that we are celebrating, that we've been celebrating this week, in which the discrimination against LGBT people in the workplace is clearly against the law. What's important to think about these trans women who started it is that they were aware of the overlapping oppressions because of their intersectional identities. Roddy himself will share with us, maybe today, maybe another time, how the intersectional identities in his life have affected his understanding of justice. One of the people that is often named as the person who started Stonewall is Marsha P Johnson. And Marsha P Johnson would have said that her intersexual identities, although that wasn't the language they used, was she was Black, she was trans, she would have said she was trans, a transvestite. Now, of course, we say she is among transgender identities. She was a sex worker because she could not get a job. She would have really loved that Supreme Court decision this week. She often lived on the streets, so she was often homeless. And she was a well-loved performer, a queen. She was so loved as a trans performer and a queen that she modeled for Andy Warhol. And that's one reason why everybody thinks of her as starting the riot. But she says she did not. She says that she never got to Stonewall, which she frequented until 2 o'clock in the morning after work. And that when she got there that night on the 28th of June, 1969, it had already started. Matter of fact, Stonewall was on fire. But the police used to, almost in a ritualistic way, do raids on Stonewall, which was a bar that was for gay men, and many transgender women, led by Marsha P Johnson, started to go there. When it was raided, they always arrested the transgender women first. It turns out, and again, this is how oppression works, that a man wearing women's clothing at that time was against the law. So sweep them up. Then they check people's identity. So if you did not have an identity card, which of course many street people do not, you were swept up. And if the paddy wagon was full, then no one else was arrested. So these people with multiple intersecting oppressions were violated, and they, week after week, they were the most abused people the police were violent to them, and if they needed help when they were being violated by other people, the police did not come and help. So they'd had enough on this night. They'd had enough. And they fought back. And they fought. Now, people called it a riot. They did not. They called it a revolution. So some of the people who were there at the start were Marsha P Johnson's daughters. They were young trans women who had been not runaways as children, but throwaways. The very same people that Nashville Launchpad serves, but there was no Launchpad. Marsha P Johnson and a few others would take in and help these really children, often as young as 11, survive. One of those was who became her dear friend, Sylvia Riviera. Sylvia Riviera was clear that this was a revolution. She was very clear, and she and Marsha started an organization the very day, practically, after Stonewall. They called it STAR, Street Transvestites Action Revolution. They even were able to have a house for a little while that they called the Star House that could take in these young street refused children. Over the years, they enjoyed Pride celebrations, but they also felt left out from them. It made Sylvia very angry. And it wasn't until around 2000 when she was finally, and her transgender sisters and brothers were fully invited into Pride celebrations. She knew, and she challenged her GLBTQ community over and over again not to become just another white, middle-class, male, racist organization. Over and over again. People did not always accept that. Now, I've been thinking a lot these last few weeks about the difference between riot and revolution. And I am very grateful to people like Marsha P Johnson and Sylvia Riviera, as well as people like Roddy and Rachel, who, by the way, Rachel was going to do this sermon with Roddy. And here we are, aren't we flexible? But Rachel had an emergency operation this week, and she could not do it. So you will hear from both of them another time, I promise. I want to reassure you that Rachel is recovering well. Okay. This is what I want to say, though, is that because they brought this up and because of all the protests to help end white supremacy culture, people have been talking about, well, it's okay if they're peaceful protests, or no, if they're rioting or looting, then that's not good. Matter of fact, it came up in my very last meeting of the Tennessee Advisory Committee to the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, where we were, like every organization, anti-racist organization, making our statement of how these protests have been helping everybody see the oppression that we have been working on to unravel, law by law. We've been working on things like ending bail. So one of the people said, I don't want it just to say protest on this committee. They said, we want it to say peaceful protest. Well, I refused that motion, and in the end, it did not pass. It still says protest because our nation has, from before the day it was formed, argued about what is a protest and what is a revolution. They have argued about it. The reason protest is in the Constitution, that we have a right to it, is because of the Boston Massacre. It is because they understood that if the oppressor who has the power defines it as violence that must be stopped by policing, they will define it as a riot. And if the people, like the colonists, say, no, our power, we're in power, we're going to call it revolution. We are going to claim our own power. It is the person in power who gets to define that. And we are seeing that every day in the last 3 weeks. It is who gets to define whether this is revolution, who gets to define whether this is protest. And that's exactly what Stonewall did. It defined this as revolution. Their protest was revolution. They had a right to that. And indeed, it's taken 50 years and there's more work to do, but we will keep working on it. And hopefully it won't take another 50 years after hundreds and hundreds of years of protesting white supremacy culture, but we will keep working on it. It is a revolution. We have a right to protest the violence against us with self-defense. So it looks to me like Roddy is going to lead us in a few words in meditation. I am glad, Roddy, that you could be back. And I would like to end just by saying that in these protests, we are saying peace, no justice. And as we work together on this revolution, we will be able to create real peace with real justice. May it be so.
Technology is great with us, and it sucks with us. So thank you for holding with us, and thanks to our amazing staff who went ahead. So I've been doing a lot of thinking and reflecting these past few days, and I've honestly come to no higher conclusion than when I started. I know that for myself, a queer multiracial person, that for the most part, I pass as white. I know that I benefit in ways of the systems of white privilege, and I know that in other ways, because of my queer and multiracial identities, that systems of racism and homophobia oppress me. But this realization does not stop me from advocating for change. It does not stop me from putting my life on the line every time I speak out against the injustices that I experience, or the ones that I see others experience. And it does not make my living my life any less scary. For I do not know if I might be the next one. I do not know if I might be the next to die in the streets. We are living in a time where many of us are scared, and we are worried about what the future might hold, even if there will be a future worth looking forward to after all of this is said and done. For far too long, people of color and members of the Black community have felt ignored, undervalued, and have had their worth and dignity stripped away over a long history, a brutal history, of a nation that was built on the idea of shelter colonialism, on a nation built on slavery and greed. We live in a country that has benefited from ignorance and from ignoring very painful yet real parts of a nation's founding. We, now speaking for all of those who benefit in some way of white privilege, white supremacy, heterosexism, or any form that gives us privilege, must do better. We must listen to the voices of those who are hurting, who have been ignored, and who are being murdered in the streets at the hands of the police and their oppressors. We must act in solidarity with all who are oppressed, and we must demand a radical change to systems that have been in place for centuries. Racism did not end with the first civil rights movement. It did not end at Stonewall. It did not end when segregation ended. And it did not end in 2009 when our nation elected our first and only Black president. No, friends, racism has never failed to exist in our nation. We have just failed to take note of racism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and all forms of oppression for significant gaps in history. And we must stop doing this. We must call them out, and we must put an end to oppression once and for all if we are all to be truly free. The America I love and the one that I believe in is one of love, one of justice, and one of a great diversity. It is one of freedom and equality for all who seek it. And I will not stop. And I hope you will not stop yourself until this America, the America where Black lives, queer lives, trans lives, and immigrant lives, and all who have been oppressed, abused, imprisoned, have died, or have been murdered by nothing more than ignorance and hatred, are hurt, oppressed, abused, or murdered anymore. In a quote by Brian Stevenson, the executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama, he says this: "We are all broken by something. We have all hurt someone or have been hurt by someone else. We all share in this condition of brokenness, even if our brokenness is not equivalent, even if the ways in which I have been hurt and the ways I have hurt others are not the same. We have all suffered and caused suffering. It is our shared brokenness that connects us. I don't know about you, but I choose to believe that love, kindness, an open heart, and an open mind, as well as the work of social justice and radical reform, is what it takes to mend the brokenness in our communities and in our nation. So, friends, I ask that you join me in demanding change. I ask that you join me in listening to the voices of all who are crying out for help. This is no time to stay silent. It is no time to feel sorry for ourselves, and it is no time to ignore the reality of the times. My faith and our faith calls us to action. It calls us to stand up against racism, against homophobia, against all forms of oppression, and it calls us to be the light and to change the world around us. Friends, I hope you will join me in doing just this. May it be so, and amen. At this time, I would like to lead you in a brief meditation that you can think about your own privileges and opportunities. So I invite you to get comfortable in your chair. You may choose to put your feet firmly on the floor. You may, like me, fold them under yourself. You may choose to close your eyes or to focus somewhere softly in the room. Many of us come from a place of privilege. We all have some form of privilege, and we all have some form of oppression. Thinking about today as Father's Day, fathers have a form of privilege. They are responsible for the life of someone. Taking that same father image in your mind, a white cis father in this nation has more privilege than that of a Black cis father in this nation. Taking that same image, keeping in mind Father's Day, we remember Black trans women who might be the father figure in a young child's life. But we also know that that Black trans woman has three forms of oppression against her. She is Black, she is trans, and she is a woman. making her less in society's eye than that cis white man. I invite you to continue to hold these images, these thoughts, and the ideas that I've shared and the ones that Gail has shared in your heart and on your minds in the weeks and years to come. For then and only then, friends, will we actually see the change that we so dream of. Friends, please take care of yourselves and stay safe in these times of uncertainty, and continue the fight, and let us not give up until we are all equal, until we can all say, yes, yes, we are truly free, we are truly one, we are truly a great and beloved community.
Thank you so much, Roddy. We are all very glad that your internet came back for that powerful message. I hope that you will all join me in singing our closing song, Holly Near's Singing for Our Lives. As you may or may not know, she altered the 5th verse to acknowledge all of the queer identities that participate in our liberation. And so I'll be lining out the verses for you as we sing. And the 5th verse will be, we are all in this together. Whether you wear an identity that is not that cis, het, privileged identity, we are all in this together. Won't you join me in singing for our lives? We're a gentle, angry people. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Justice seeking. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives, young and old together. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We're a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We're all in this together. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. A gentle, loving people. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Please join me for the words of our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, nor the fire of community. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'd like to close with these words by Helen Rose. Blessed are the wanderers seeking affirmation. Blessed are the worshipers praying from closets, pulpits, pews, and hardship. Blessed are the lovers of leaving families and familiarity, leaving tables where love is not being served. Blessed are those who stay. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the queer, disciples of truth, living, breathing sacred reflections of divine love. This service is over. May it have brought you a bit of rest. May it have refreshed you so that our service can begin again renewed.